Why and how Coach Fickell understands the bigger picture necessary to win at the highest levels of college football.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Badger fans, happy Sunday. Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, as always. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us, for giving us a little bit of your time. It is greatly appreciated. A new segment we're going to start doing every Sunday. We're going to go live, and we're going to highlight my 3 favorite comments on the show from the last week. So the 3 comments I was like, oh, that's a really good point. Or the 3 comments I was like, yeah, that's a great discussion thought. Or the 3 comments I disagree with most. Whatever it is, we're going to just talk about my 3 favorite from the last week that I looked at. And we get tons of great comments. So we're going to keep a running tally. If your comment gets picked, you're going to be entered into a drawing at the end of the month to win great prizes. Just another way to reward everybody who's tuning in, who's joining the community, to encourage more participation. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so first comment here, Shadows After Dark, by the way, says, go Badgers. What's up, Shadows? Happy to have you here, my friend. First comment we got here, let's pull it up. This one is from Timothy Palm. He said, I'm still wait and see on predict season mode, or predict the record for the season. He said, the staff does a great job with hype, ... Too good, really. This comment got my brain thinking. His comment, and Timothy's right. Like, Timothy, good friend of the show, he's correct. This staff does a great job with hype. It got me thinking, yeah, they do, and you have to in today's college football, right? Like, it's so much more than just X's and O's now. It got me thinking, you need a person at the top who's running the program like a business. You need a CEO, and that's what Luke Fickell is. You look at what they do, and you compare and contrast with previous staffs. And this isn't just a Paul Chryst thing. It's also a Bielema thing. You go back. You look at what we used to do, and you look at what we do now. And from social media standpoint, people, there's probably potentially older generations of fans who roll their eyes at that. It's so important now. You have to be active on social media. You have to promote the program. You have to promote the image. You have to build brand awareness. It's so important. So, yeah, they are great with hype. And I don't think, and he finishes, Timothy says, too good, really. No, I don't think you can be too good. Now, eventually, we all get it. The results have to back it up. Eventually, the results have to come through. But you can't be too good with hype. Like, in this era of football where you need to, quite frankly, Dave Aranda said it, right? We love Dave Aranda, former Badgers defensive coordinator, head coach of Baylor. I might butcher the question, but they asked him, man, you guys have been at media days. They asked Dave Aranda, why have you been recruiting better? And he said, we buy players. Like, that's the era of college football now. That was the greatest answer ever because it was honest. Excuse me. And it's reflective of the era of college football we're in. And in order to buy players, you need boosters, you need money, you need engagement, you need media presence, you need to build a brand. So, Timothy, I hear you. Like, results have to match up with hype. Otherwise, none of it matters. But you can't be too good at hype these days, in my opinion. I think the staff gets it. Social media presence. You see the stuff they send to recruits, and then those recruits retweet it. And I can tell you for a fact, talking to some of these recruits, seeing that level of engagement is different. It sticks with them. It's one of the reasons Wisconsin has recruited better the last couple of years. It's one of the reasons we've won some of these big battles. It's because of the attention to detail on the margins, which you absolutely need in college football these days. So, Timothy Palm, you are on the board, my friend. That's the first question from the last week I wanted to get into our comment. The next one here, this is from Christian Gross. The dichotomy between Wisconsin's 2 money-making programs is fascinating. In my opinion, I think Fickell will be the last one standing, and McIntosh will use that as a heavy influence on who he hires for the B-ball program. That's a really good comment. That's a really interesting comment. Let's see. Yeah, so for starters, Christian Gross, again, thank you for the comment. Yeah, 100%. Like 100%. The dichotomy between the two, the differences between the two are stark. You have the internal voice and the Wisconsin guy in Greg Gard, and building the program and the legacy of Bo Ryan, who's been here forever, still holding on to some older principles, I would say, in terms of basketball, in terms of recruiting, those type of things. And then you have Luke Fickell coming in, the hype, we just talked about all that. It's very, very different. My question to this comment would be, why can't both work? Right? Like, why can't both work? So, I mean, I think they both can, right? I think you can do it in a couple different ways. And I would say with Gard, we've seen evolution with him to some degree. We've started to see it, right? Hiring Kirk Penny, creating an offensive assistant role. That's a recognition of, this offense isn't quite working. Let's bring in a new voice. And hiring, Isaac Wadajo, the new recruiting director, a guy who grew up in Milwaukee, but a guy who has coached on the East Coast, a guy who's coached in JUCO. So you're starting to see him create positions, try to make this more flexible, make the program better. Just recently, Greg Steemsma, right, bringing in a new director of player personnel. So that's a guy who has Spurs connections. Yeah, I think you're seeing Gard start to evolve, but he's never going to become completely different than who he is. Like, Tigers don't change their stripes. So old ball coaches don't suddenly become new ball coaches. Like, he's going to be who he is. I think both can work, but I agree. Like, I think the football program is what McIntosh wants, right? I think that's the vision of what he wants in an athletic program. Young, dynamic coach, young, dynamic personnel, really a ton of energy and upward momentum, forward thinking. I think that's his vision for how our program should be run. And if basketball doesn't, if basketball stagnates, I think his next hire for basketball, if it stagnates, would be more in the mold of a Luke Fickell. But I think both methods can work. And I'm still really interested in this year's basketball team. I think Badger fans are going to be potentially pleasantly surprised by how this year's basketball team looks. Okay, let's get a couple more comments here. Stephen Lamastis says, are we taking Cameron Flowers? I don't think so. I think they're good at receiver. We also saw Moise Tankara committed to Arizona. That was a big Badgers target. I think they're pretty good at receiver, to be honest. Darcy Bean says, social media stuff I've seen has been really cringe. I don't think their player graphics have been bad at all. In fact, I think the player graphics have been really good. Some of the did you know videos have been a little weird, I think. I think those could be a little bit better. But I think the graphics packages that they have for players have actually been really good. I absolutely love when they get a guy, the Luke Fickell signal. They have Joe Thomas and Barry Alvarez involved in it. We got another one. That one's great. I don't know how anybody can dislike that one. That's just personal preference. I think that's a great one that they put together. But more than anything else, like, you can dislike it or not like it, but you can't deny the push to having more out there. You can't deny the effort and momentum put into it. And that's the whole point. Like, you have to do it. Not everyone's going to hit. Not everyone's going to like everything that they do, but you have to put energy and money and time and resources and people. You have to put those things into it, because otherwise you're going to fall behind. It is what it is. Kids live on social media nowadays. Who are you recruiting? You're recruiting kids. You got to go where they are. I used to be in the Navy, and I used to talk to a Navy recruiter, and he said, one of the worst parts about his job was going to malls and going to these places that he didn't want to be, because he was a 40-year-old guy with 3 kids, and he just wanted to, but you got to go where the kids are. And it's no different than recruiting. You got to get into where they're at, and they live on social media. So I think they've really made a push in that area. And I'm telling you, a lot of recruits have noticed. A lot of recruits like it. That doesn't mean everyone has to, but I'm telling you, a lot of people do. All right, we're going to take a quick break for our friends of the show. Come back with the third comment of the week that I wanted to star and highlight. Christian Gross, thank you for the comment. You're on the board. Today's episode, actually, that's coming up next. Let's talk about the floor of the Badgers, 5 wins. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at eBay Motors. Take it from me, a guy who's been in multiple accidents, who's hit 2 guardrails, who's been carjacked, who got stuck in a swamp and then had to stitch up the canvas of his Jeep, who has, let's see what else. Take it from me. I'm a guy who's needed car parts at times. And I'm also a guy who just wants to be on the computer with my iced cafe and go shopping and not have to get out, not have to interact, not have to put on pants. Yes, I do have pants on right now, but the point is eBay Motors is simple, easy, fast, the right parts, the right fit, the right prices, the first time, 122 million parts for everything you could possibly need for your ride or die. Do it the easy way. Do it the fast way. Do it the cheap way. Do it the way that guarantees your fit with eBay Guaranteed Fit, which is only available to U.S. customers. Keep your ride or die alive over at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Keep your ride or die alive over at eBay Motors. All right, let's get into the third comment of the week I wanted to highlight. And again, we're doing a new segment now. Every Sunday, we're going to go live, and we're just going to highlight the top 3 comments of the last week. And then if you get your comment highlighted, you're going to get put into a drawing. You'll get a prize. Just another way to say thank you for everyone in the community, everybody who comments, everyone who leaves really insightful things, because we do have a very sharp community. Okay, let's get into our next one here. This is from A. Hills. Hey, Ryan, get on the show with Locked On Big Ten. He said he's given us 5 wins. So, yeah, I've talked about this a couple places. I've seen this a couple places. He's a little low. Locked On Big Ten host is a little low, 5 wins. I would say this: if you're looking at the schedule to get to 5 wins, here's what has to happen. Let's look at the path to get there. And is that possible? Yes, it's possible, right? It's possible if Tyler Van Dyke is not very good and you have a couple injuries on the offensive line. If that's the case, against a tougher schedule, you're suddenly in a world of hurt. However, like if you look at the schedule, even then, to get to 5 wins, you're losing. Let's go through it, right? You're losing every tough game, right? So that's not just the 4 biggies we talked about. That's not just Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and Alabama. That means you're also losing Iowa. You're also losing at Nebraska. You're basically, your wins would be Western Michigan, South Dakota, Northwestern, and Minnesota, and then maybe you get a win against Purdue. I don't see it, man. Even if the bottom falls out and we get Bizarro World Evil Tyler Van Dyke and Ches Malusi gets hurt again, and Renfro gets hurt, and Gary Anderson somehow comes back in the program, and we can't kick field goals and we're still kicking it out of bounds. I don't know, man. I can't see 5 wins. Let me just be real with y'all. I think the floor is 6. That's like the floor, because yes, we talk a lot about this schedule. Let's be real for a second. We talk a lot about this schedule. It's hard, but the Badgers aren't Ball State. Like it's okay. Wisconsin's played tough schedules before. Wisconsin has beaten Iowa. Like Wisconsin has not lost to Nebraska but one time since they came into the Big Ten. Wisconsin is going to beat Rutgers. I'm not dismissing Rutgers, but let's just be real here. The 5 wins thing feels that feels crazy. They're not going to lose. They're not going to win only 5 games. I think the floor is 6, and that's probably unlikely too. I think they're a 7 to 9 win team. I think that's where their range is, 7 to 9. If it gets to 5, we got to have some real talks. We got to look ourselves in the mirror as a program. We got to have real talk. All right, a couple more quick things here. Those are the 3. Thank you, A. Hills. Those are the 3 comments of the week I wanted to highlight. Again, we're going to do this every week. Just highlight the 3 favorite comments of the week. A. Hills, you're on the board. Let's go. A couple other ones I want to throw up there quick that I really liked. This is from Bucky63. Said, Ryan, love your flags. Each and every one is dear to my heart. Bucky63, thank you, friend. Listen, Wisconsin means a ton to me, straight up. Like, I grew up here. I love this state, even though I've been gone for a long time and I'm back now. Every time we came back, it was always, I'm coming home. Like, this is home. And it means a hell of a lot to me to be able to talk about the Badgers, to be in Wisconsin, to interact with other people here. So, yeah. And then I was in the Navy for 9 years, right? And the Navy was basically everything that got my life kickstarted in the right direction. So, yeah, man. Appreciate you, Bucky. Every one of these flags is near and dear to me as well. Okay, let's go. Next one I want to highlight. This is from Steve Harrington. Long comment, but I just want to pick a few things out here. 4-year combat, heavy engineer, Army vet, Badger fan since the 70s, been listening to Badger football since 72. Thank you for your service, Steve. Really do appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for commenting on the show, for watching, and for everything you have done for this country. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, my friend. All right, let's finish off here. We got a couple comments in the chat. Let's see. Brian Willie says, yeah, Fickell only wins 5 games. He's updating the resume. I don't think even 5 wins gets him out, but man, 5 wins puts you on the hot seat. 5 wins definitely gets you on the hot seat. Tyler Strieber, Nebraska being overhyped year 2 of Rule. I think so. People seem to think they're coming in to be an underdog contenders for the conference. So I will say this with Nebraska. Yes. First of all, Tyler, yes. And again, Tyler Strieber's a great friend of the show. He's awesome. Yes. 100% they're being overrated because they're Nebraska. Every single offseason they get overrated. However, I think Rule's a good coach. And if you look at their schedule could not have lined up any better. I think it's like their first 7 games. There's a pretty good chance they're going to be favored. 6 or 7 games. So if you have Badger fans, pay me the perfect scenario if you're breaking in a 5-star freshman quarterback. You give him like a 6-7 game runway where he doesn't have to stress. So I think they're going to have a pretty solid year for Nebraska. They're going to go bowling this year. I think they're going to win 7-8 games. I think Matt Rule is the right coach for them. He will rebuild the trenches. He believes in toughness. That being said, like, I don't think they're going to beat Wisconsin. I got to see it. For all the hype about Matt Rule's second year, this is something I've talked about with playmaker Curtis Holland. People aren't really giving Luke Fickell that same type of benefit. They're all saying, well, Matt Rule in the second year. I don't hear a lot of people being like, well, Luke Fickell in the second year. It's the same thing. Wisconsin's going to be better than they were last year because it's the second year with this staff. Nebraska's going to grow as well. But yes, I do think they're being overhyped. However, that schedule is going to artificially inflate them, and it's going to give Raiola, the 5-star quarterback, a runway to build some momentum. So by the end of the year, that could be a little sketchy. I think the Nebraska game is probably like a 60-40 game for Wisconsin. Could easily lose it. Wouldn't shock me at all. Jay Broadber, injuries the offense line could hurt the most. I agree. Yeah. I mean, listen, outside of quarterback play falling on its head, that's the spot I'm most worried about. I'm not sold on TVD. I've said it. I think there's skills there. I think there's tools there. There's a reason he's still in college with an NFL arm after 4 years. It is what it is, right? He's got a lot of question marks. Can he answer some of them and we can be pretty good this year? Probably. Could he not? Also possible. John Berger, my boy, JB, even with below average quarterback play, we'll have 6 wins. We had 7 last year with it. Agreed. Like, the 5-win stuff is nuts. We had a disaster in the passing game last year for the most part. Partially on Mordecai, partially on the offensive line, partially on the receivers, partially on the coaches. Like, it didn't work and we won 7 games. Now, I get the schedule's tougher, but our offense is going to be better than that. We have a center who can snap the ball. Not that worried about it. Craig Hendricks says, welcome back, Ryan. Thank you, Craig. Darcy Bean, 8 wins. We're reliving our own hype of 22-3, maybe. See, I actually think that's a great question. I actually think, Darcy, that we've swung a little too far, and now we're too scared because we got overhyped last year. I think people are afraid to be optimistic this year because they got burned last year. And I'm just telling you, what happened in the past, what happened last year does not impact what happens this year. And I'm not sure if that's what you're saying or not. But I do think the pendulum has swung a little too far where now I just keep hearing it. They're like, oh, well, we got burned last year. Last year ain't this year. Last year's not this year. Listen, last year I had more hair and I was in better shape. That doesn't impact how I am this year. I've got a little more receding hairline. I'm in worse shape, right? Last year is not this year. Don't be afraid to get a little excited about this team because I think this team is legitimately going to be better. I really do. And last year, yes, we absolutely got overhyped. But maybe this year we're being a little underhyped and we're a little afraid to go take the candy. I don't know. That's where I'm at. Darcy Bean also says, hope we can keep the commits. You never know, right? Like, most of these dudes are solid. I can tell you that just in terms of how solid a commit can actually be. Most of these dudes are pretty solid. But listen, the right guy goes and offers the right amount of money or the right situation changes. You never really know. It's recruiting. We might miss a couple. I think most of these guys are very locked in. I'll say that. But I don't think we're done adding. We might poach somebody. I could see running back as a spot specifically where as the season goes on, if somebody pops at a lower level school, I could see, because I don't think Byron Lewis or Louis, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I've seen it different ways. I don't think we're getting him. So I could see them being opportunistic at running back, maybe poaching somebody. All right, let's wrap there because the whole point of this is to kind of keep it short and really just we'll highlight the 3 top comments every week. Come back next Sunday, another live show highlighting those on Wisconsin. Again, this is so incredible to be able to talk Badgers with all of you. Thank you so much on Wisconsin, and we'll talk later.